Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Mission by Design. Thank you for joining us today. I am your co-host, Bio, and Haley Patel is my host as well, too. And today we have an extraordinary guest with us, Jack Dangermond from Esri. Jack, how are
Hello,
you?
everybody.
So we are joined by Jack from Esri. Thanks, Bio. For those of you that don't know what Esri is, they are the global leader in geographic information systems technology. They're best known for their ArcGIS platform that helps organizations visualize, analyze, and manage spatial data. Their tools enable everyone from researchers to enterprise to governments make location-based decisions using mapping, analytics, and geospatial intelligence. So welcome, Jack.
Jack, thank you for joining us today. And how are you feeling?
I'm good. It's Friday. It's a wonderful day. I'm very happy, actually.
Perfect. So I'd love to just start with a genesis. In 1969, you founded Esri, and you've been the CEO and founder ever since. With just $1,000, you've transformed the company to a multi-billion-dollar organization. Can you share what that journey has been for you?
Well, I actually started in a laboratory when I was at Harvard. It was called the Lab for Computer Map Making and Spatial Analysis. And it was one of the origin parts for my work, my life, actually. When I left that lab, I started doing consulting work, services work, making maps for people using computers, and then doing analytics using computers. These were origin components of what later became known as a geographic information system, which is sort of like a financial information system or a personnel record-keeping system, but it's much broader in a sense because it's everything geographic. So about 10 years into it, people began to be curious about the software we were using, and we sold it a few times, which was in some ways a kind of disaster because, software as a product didn't really exist in the 70s or early 80s. So with a group of users who had acquired that tool, we began to craft a product, which was first called ArcInfo and later became ArcGIS. Started on mainframes and many computers and then went to workstations. And then I first encountered PCs with Bill and his work with DOS and then later with Windows. And we loaded our tools, refactored our tools, in many cases rewrote our tools to operate in the Microsoft environment. And this became quite popular. I mean, millions of users now use on the Windows environment our software. It's called ArcGIS. And later it has migrated over to the cloud as server technology, and we have SaaS offerings, platform as a service offering for developers or the development community. So we have millions of users basically that make maps every day. They make actually billions of maps every day on the web, and they use them for just about everything. So all of this is built, on geography, the science of our world. So people have studied geography in classes and they kind of know it a little bit, place names and boundaries but actually geography is a science that represents or abstracts everything. All of the scientific ologies like geology or climatology or sociology or economics, I think of them as layers in a geographic setting. And people use maps to communicate everything, geography. So we love maps. Everybody uses it almost like a language today to understand patterns of COVID or understand where assets are or buildings are, or even in 3D environments, it's 3D living digital twins. These are all maps built from geographic information systems. So this evolution of my life has been growing a company little by little, staying current with what's happening in technology, and listening very carefully to what our users want and evolving that so that it is responsive to taking care of their geographic information needs. And you might think of this as a little narrow niche. No, it turns out to be everyone is operating in a spatial environment, in a geographic environment, and they love maps. They can communicate their information through maps. They can look at analytics, looking at relationships between things on maps. And so this just turned out to be first an adventure for me as a student, and then trying to promote this in in the world has led to a company that was self-sustaining. Today, we're several billion, and we keep investing about a third of our revenue into R&D. So the product just gets better and better. It stays current with latest technologies. It runs completely on the Azure and Windows environment. We support basically every kind of technology that Microsoft has. We integrate with the new Fabric. We integrate with everything from SQL Server to all the different 365 apps. And we're a kind of geography foundation on which so many Microsoft products run.
It's such a cool story, Jack. Thanks for sharing that. And I think one of the themes, as you recounted the history of the company, is this theme of innovation, right? From some of your earliest days in the lab to now having this incredible platform that integrates with so many amazing solutions. And as part of that, we've had the unique opportunity to be step by step with you along the way and make
Yes.
some of these really interesting market changing announcements together. And I think about the Ignite conference that was just last month and some of the great announcements that Esri and Microsoft made together as part of that. And I'd love to hear from you. What has this innovation, some of the more recent innovations, meant for our shared customers?
Well, like I mentioned, we spend about a third of our overall gross revenue on innovation, software development, and it keeps pushing the envelope. So every year there's new innovations in the Microsoft domain that we try to take advantage of. So making things better. And these especially happened with Azure and sort of the evolution of Azure as a platform. Today, Azure, we're a $50 million, we spend ourselves $50 million on Azure for our PaaS and SaaS services, but also our customers are many, many, many more times that. They're moving their enterprise software for GIS data management into Azure, and it's just exploding in terms of the actual economic footprint of bringing geography into the Microsoft world. But other innovations, whether it's mobile, Windows Mobile, or whether it's the integration of iPhones and Android devices into the Microsoft ecosystem, we try to take advantage of client server-like or mobile device or device to cloud innovations that are occurring. And then, of course, everybody today is talking about AI. And we ourselves are using the science side of AI, so-called geo AI, to pull features off of images and videos, put them right into the database, increasingly in real time. Then we're also leveraging things like Copilot and ChatGPT to make our software more easily and accessible from the IT people, for GIS people, but also from citizens. People are talking to our software now and having it make maps for them or do various kinds of analytics or answer questions. And part of this has to do with agentifying, building agents on top of or with our software so that you can, what's the weather going to be like tomorrow? Okay, it comes back with a weather map that shows it. So this is transforming our customers. We have just about every large city in the world in an ArcGIS environment. We're not exclusive, but it certainly plays a major part in the geospatial enabling of cities, smart cities, digital twins of cities. Also, just about every utility company uses our platform to manage their networks. This is electrical companies, water companies, gas companies, telecommunication companies. They're all geographic. And so innovation that happens can transform those organizations to get them to become more future-leaning, smarter, and all of it's being empowered by the whole architecture that Microsoft is pushing with, smarter and also integrated. I'm so excited about Fabric because and being a part of Fabric because we have been embedded, thanks to the collaboration that we have with Microsoft, as a geospatial analytics part of the Fabric platform. And our mapping tools, like web mapping tools that allow our customers, our joint customers, to really take any kind of data in these data lake environments, visualize them, analyze them geospatially, and make a map. That's For me, that's really exciting. I mean, it's so expansive to everything I've worked on. And so our partnership with Microsoft's really amazing. I mean, for all of those people that sell Microsoft products, it's exciting because our users who are everywhere are loading, loading their data into cloud environments and connecting them with devices and desktops and browsers. It really promises to be a kind of innovative transformation for organizations. And so people ask me often, well, what is your market segment? Actually, our market segment is everybody. Every organization needs to better understand their information, and maps are a fundamental language for understanding. And understanding precedes action. So by being able to organize geospatially content and visualize it and analyze it, it creates a foundation for transforming organizations, making them smarter. I mean, everybody's buzzing about AI. I like AI, and I like Satya and his comments about it. It's beautiful. I love that. But geospatial AI, this is the combination of everything integrated into smarter platforms, and then being able to communicate it to everyone through this powerful, intuitive mapping language really promises to address so many of the big challenges that we're facing today, from climate change to, overpopulation or resource challenges or it integrates science into everything.
Jack, that was such an incredible answer. I mean, it's amazing to see your passion around this. And I think in that segment, you just hit on so many of the trends, right? Which is leveraging voice with AI, using technology to make complicated software more relevant to anyone. Like, what an amazing way to tie everything together. So thank you.
Well, my enthusiasm is quite natural. I had that enthusiasm when I was a student at Harvard. It was really, I sort of like saw the future. And just, it's taken an enormous amount of work to build that future with my colleagues have done an amazing job of engineering tools that actually allow it to be able to scale and become the platform that it is today. And I appreciate also the relationship with Microsoft, because it's been, we leverage all of your stuff, and also our users use both the Microsoft platform and its innovation and ourself kind of together. It's evolving together. And people like to talk about enthusiasm. For me, I see it as being able to apply engineering and great technology to make the place, make our place, make the world a better place. It's like I see purposeful activities by our users. They're all playing very hard at trying to make their organizations better. And this union, our joint work has been helping them realize all of that.
Jack, I think one thing that I really appreciate about our partnership is it's very collaborative, and we learn so much from you all. And every time we're able to partner with Esri and go to market together, we force multiply the value we provide to all our customers. And as you mentioned, you are in almost every place on earth. And you're also very mission oriented. It's no coincidence you have science and research as a fundamental pillar in your naming convention. I would love for you to elaborate a little bit on how, throughout the years, you have managed to focus on delivering value from a human-centered design perspective, as opposed to just driving or riding on any hype. Your solutions are very pragmatic. At the same time, they're very innovative. What's the secret to be able to last for so long, innovate for so long, while still maintaining a very people or human-focused value proposition?
Well, I don't exactly know how to answer your question. I can say a few attributes, maybe, Vile, that would help. First, I went to design school. So, even the theme of your very talk here integrates the word design. And design looks to the idea of there's some artistry into it, but really it's looking at what's needed and wanted and transforming that into solutions that really matter. So we learn that as architects or landscape architects or urban designers or engineers. This is foundational to what we got trained in. And in design school, you work like 24 hours a day. People don't sleep in design school. That's really what it's about. And that's kind of basic, push-up training to prepare you for a life of meaning. That's what designers are really about. And good ones, great architects, great engineers, great solution providers really have that as a basic philosophy. And I find that it brings great meaning to life when you can actually create something out of nothing. You can see what's needed and wanted and do something important. My second response would be my parents. They were both servants, basically. My mother was a housekeeper. My father was a gardener, and they immigrated, from Europe, Holland, as children. And they never really had an opportunity to get a great education, but they were always in service to people. And growing up in a service family, I got it in my DNA. And they, as servants, started a little business. It was a nursery business. And some of the people that they worked for said, Pete and Alice, you should really try to get your kids to get an education. And so the way they did that is they started a nursery. We all grew up in the nursery, growing things and selling things, being entrepreneurial. So I've got it in my DNA from my parents. And they put us through school, my brothers and I and my sister. So living a life in service is really exciting. And if you can put the whole technology thing together with innovation, with being in service, then you've got a solution for really not only a great company or a great way of living, but also a good life, because you always see through design and solution creation purpose. A purposeful life is what everybody desperately wants. And interesting for me is geography, this science of our world, provides the framework for me to play in and get other people collaborating and working together on creating a future that is sustainable. Right now, we're challenged with huge problems around the world. I mean, climate change, for gosh sakes, it's not a political thing. It's a reality. And how do we address that? And how do we address congestion in cities and lack of housing and economic development, all these, and loss of biodiversity? These are big challenges that we hear about, but this technology provides us practical means for actually integrating information of all types, approaching problem solving holistically. So designing things holistically, we sometimes talk about. This is exciting. And so I notice that people that get into my field, these GIS professionals, they don't. Well, they get into it. It's like a I don't know what. It's like a religion. They start to realize how they can really make progress in their work, and so I'm pretty excited about this, as you can tell. But I've always had it. I've always had this natural excitement that comes out of my work, and that. I don't think it's unique to me, but I do think that there are some ingredients that you can look to. My success is living a purposeful life and going for it at 100%. I mean, that's another thing that I often talk about is people play at life. Sometimes they work hard so they can go to the beach. I'm not interested in going to the beach. I'm interested in playing at 100%. And I encourage the people around me to do the same thing. It's very motivating, actually. Not many people get a chance to play at 100%, but if you work at it and you create it, you set it up right, you set your own framework for living at a purposeful life. That to me is part of my success.
Such a great lesson. You talked about the culture of the industry that you're in and of people who are passionate about GIS, and having had the chance to go to your user conferences the past couple of years, I can absolutely attest to that culture. There's just such great energy in the room when you do your plenary, and everybody's so excited to see you on
Yeah,
stage. So it's been amazing to see in person. We've touched on the collaboration between Esri and Microsoft. We co-sell in over 20 countries together.
right.
And I'd love to make it real for our audience, right? Help me with a real world example of a customer that we have collaborated together on. I think, we all use the New York City one to
hmm
discuss what great looks like from how our teams can work together.
Yeah, New York is interesting, and it's kind of like an icon for thousands of other cities like them.
Mhm.
New York is powerful because they have a strong Microsoft platform there. Like, let's start. Cities are like a little federation of fiefdoms. Actually, these departments they live sort of semi-autonomously. Police department there was one of the first engagements that we did together, and it's a strong Azure foundation with data models. They use just about everything that Microsoft has, and they fight crime, and they're successful at it. Uh, but also the planning department, and also the transit agency, and also the port uh, agency, and the health department, and the roads department, and the sanitation organization. So Tish, Jesse Tish, who's now the police chief there, worked her way up in the police department. Then she went to become what I guess I would call the CIO and do it, their Department of IT. And then she cleaned up sanitation by getting things organized. And now she went back to being, so as she's worked across the organization, she's not only empowered and transformed these different parts of the city, complex city, but also from a business perspective, unified IT and and built applications that now increasingly collaborate across the different fiefdoms or across the different departments. And that's not unlike every other city. They all need geospatial information. They all manage their own little things, but increasingly with web services, these overlays of content in each department are brought together so that you can have kind of a department of understanding where layers of information can be combined so the mayor or politicians or the citizens themselves can begin to understand the complexity of cities and really make smarter decisions. Design smarter cities. That's the big goal. Smarter cities that are more efficient, that really save people's lives in disasters, that respond to fires better, that encourage and enable better policing because they understand what's happening where. So I like cities as a kind of example collaboration between Microsoft and ourselves. Every city in the world uh, is being enabled geospatially. And as we extrapolate out, cities will become smarter digital twins. They're the actions of government workers will get smarter. The engagement between the city and the citizens that live in it through maps, there's better understanding and better collaboration. We make our software available to NGOs around the world free, and I think we have over something like 20,000 of them, these NGOs, and we support them just like normal customers. And they pay just a little transaction fee or something through people like, what's it called? This tech company that's a TechSoup. And Microsoft and ourselves collaborate, freely disseminating the software out. And so citizens are becoming also geospatially enabled through their associations, becoming part of the cities. So the cities are this way, states are this way. Almost every state in America uses our tools in natural resources and transportation, DOTs, and environmental data and emergency response. And then at the federal level, the national level, here in the U.S., but also the equivalent is in almost every other country, every federal agency uses us whether it's in USGS or in NOAA or in the Census Bureau. They all have their integrated information. And all of these customers in government are now moving over from their own infrastructure into a cloud environment. So there's just huge opportunities for, I guess, Microsoft sellers to talk to our customers about empowering their GISs at these levels of government with cloud. And then also the sort of a smarter dimension of it, the AI stuff, making cities smarter. People talk about smart cities, real-time measurement of everything that's moving and changing, like in a city, every police car, where it's happening, where's a real-time crime, transforming into a real-time digital twin so that people, citizens, as well as agencies, as well as private sectors, can play in that environment. And speaking about the private sector, I think it's 700 of the Fortune 1000 companies use our software to get the geographic advantage. Where do I locate Starbucks? Where do I locate Chick-fil-A's? Where do I locate Walmart?
Most important questions.
It's just, and where is a fundamental question in almost every organization. Or where is it happening? Where is there a crime? Where is there more customers? So geospatially enabling everybody in the private sector is one of my dreams. I mean, it's certainly done in public sector, but it'll make things more efficient, save huge amounts of money because you locate in the right thing. I mean, everybody's nervous about, did I make the right target? Okay, they're one of our customers, but anyway, did I target the right location? That's kind of fun. UPS is an amazing, and FedEx, they're both amazing logistics companies. I think UPS saved $400 million last year by automating the routing of their trucks using our platform. This is an amazing story. So efficiency, every oil and gas company, every mining company, where do we mine that avoids environmental contamination, et cetera. So private sector, huge opportunity for our combined technologies. And I appreciate all those customers because they're driving efficiency and making things smarter and better through systematic geographic design.
Yes, we're excited to go tackle that market together. And as a very frequent UPS customer, thank you for helping them get to my house more efficiently.
Yes. The post office also, they use it extensively, by the way.
Jack, as we look forward, you've emphasized, the need to be purpose-driven,
Yes.
very mission-oriented.
I
You're
think
always
that's
on
true.
100.
I don't
I
want to. You don't
fundamentally
need
agree.
to, but it's a lot
No,
more fun than life.
I'm in agreement completely. I think we are in agreement holistically as well too. But you also mentioned that you've lived your life at 100%. That's very visible. It's very evident. And I'm hoping we get to see that for the next 50 years and even more potentially. But what's your view on what the future holds? Where do you see even more synergies between Esri and Microsoft? And what trends are you observing that are beginning to proliferate in the market that we can capture together?
Well, one can just look around and notice all the big challenges in the world. I've mentioned a few: climate change, loss of nature, loss of biodiversity, inefficiency, geopolitical polarization. I can't do much about it, except that I would say the world needs better understanding, and they need more collaboration. Better understanding is sort of a science thing. I'll add to it and say we need better agreed upon understanding. And it turns out that maps have a lot of credibility because they're coming from real measurements. And people understand them right away. Example is the COVID map that John Hopkins put together on our platform. It made 1.3 trillion maps, and it changed the understanding of COVID for the world. It was looked at by nearly half the world's population. And in the beginning, it was this little thing in China, and it spread. And when people got what was going on with COVID, behavior changed. And So seeing a problem like that, measuring it, creating understanding, affected global action to some of these big challenges. The work that NOAA and others have done on climate and understanding climate change have been transformational to, and this is not a political thing because people can debate about that all they want, but understanding what's happening with climate, understanding what's happening with biodiversity loss, or understanding what's happening with poverty, or what's happening with homeless people. All of these things we can address with technology. So whether it's in my field or other technology fields, innovation has been part of our human history. These last few hundred years and the last 50 years with computing have accelerated our understanding and ability to act. We haven't done so well in the collaboration part. And on the other hand, seeing through the lens of geography where we can collaborate or not is really a valuable thing. But what's your question really was, Bio, about the what is the role of technology innovators and sellers and promoters to create the future? Well, I just sort of see it as a long trend of human innovation, co-evolution of technology and society changes back and forth, evolving along. And I'm thrilled to be part of that. And I think anybody in technology, whether it's anyone in Microsoft or anyone in its and your colleagues in the IT environment, are actually contributing to the evolution of civilization. I like this idea that we're part of that evolution of civilization, and part of it has to be we have to also aspire to be human. Integrating humanness into technology is something that people are often worried about with AI. I'm not so worried about it because I know that AI doesn't have empathy, can pretend to have empathy, but joy and love and empathy are things that Jane Goodall was saying just before she passed away. She said, I'm not really too worried, Jack, about AI and the loss of humanity, because these are ingredients that only humans have. So looking to the future, I really see more automated work. I see more intelligence being applied, and maybe I'm hopeful in my thoughts, but I don't think so. I think civilization is going to evolve in the right direction, and I'm really all in on trying to be part of that.
Well, Jack, thank you. This was a great conversation, very insightful. We are excited about what the future has for us together. We're extremely committed to the growth of our partnership. And just thank you for your time today. I guess any parting words for us before we wrap up?
Only that we're all part of this adventure of life, and you can see yourself in little ways. I'm just a seller. I'm just an engineer. I'm just an application person. I'm just this. I'm just that. But I'm always fond of this of 4 words: at the same time. At the same time that you're doing your actual mission work, you can also do other things. I mean, at the same time you do your main work, and you can take care of your family. At the same time that you're doing your core work, you can also be members of a community and make the community better. At the same time, you can take care of things. At the same time, you can be in service to larger dimensions. At the same time, you can learn how to collaborate more effectively. At the same time, you can be a participant in the democracy of our country and play that. So we're all stuck in our little discipline. We're all stuck in our little mission. That's our job. The people pay us to do it. And at the same time, you can also increasingly be this magical thing that it's of being a human being, collaborating, communicating, loving, evolving things. This to me is the natural swing that will come back as this technology continues to evolve. People will see themselves in a different context, taking care of the planet, taking care of the world. So doing your normal work and at the same time being conscious of and participating at 100% in making the world a better place.
I love that.
So beautifully said. I think if there's anything I'm going to walk away with, it's to play at 100. So thank you,
At
Jack.
the same time, too.
Incredibly
Yeah.
inspiring.
Jack, thank you for your time today. I appreciate you.
Thanks.